In the Russian Federation, officials are afraid to announce a new wave of forced mobilization. This was stated by veteran of the Russian-Ukrainian war, former company commander of the Aidar battalion of Ukraine, Yevgeny Diky, on air on Radio NV. Their losses are simply colossal. Not a single assessment that is really based on something serious provides for losses of less than approximately 200,000 just in the knocked out ones, said Diky. He added that, given the way Russian military field medicine works, for every one killed Russian, there are at least 2 who become disabled for life. In his opinion, we are talking about at least 400,000 disabled for life. This is a minimum estimate of their losses, Diky added. The analyst noted that there is an open list of named losses. A month ago, this list included more than 95,000 dead, but there are at least 60,000 more appeals to Ukraine from Russian citizens to search for their relatives who went missing in the war against Ukraine. The Russians have approximately 100,000 confirmed killed and about the same number of unconfirmed. It didn't give us what we initially hoped for in 2022. It didn't give us an anti-war movement in Russia. There are no protests, but it doesn't add to the regime's popularity either. It doesn't add to it at all. To put it mildly, it doesn't add to the popularity of a new possible forced mobilization, Diky said. At the same time, he explained the absence of protests against the war in Russia by the fact that most of these dead joined the Russian army voluntarily in order to earn money. That is why Russian public opinion is quite calm about this, said Diky. But another case is that those who were forcibly mobilized. Diky recalled that the Russian regime once managed to carry out a forced wave of mobilization in the fall of 2022. Since then, apart from those in Zinc, no one has been returned. Their wives travel around Russia with stickers saying, "Bring back your husband." And this apparently worries the authorities greatly, and hence the experiment with bringing in North Korean cannon fodder. The Russian authorities are still afraid of a new wave of forced mobilization. Diky is convinced. At the same time, the analyst believes that the key point is that as this manpower is destroyed, their army is getting worse and worse. He believes that the quality of the Russian army has been steadily declining. What is now coming against us, fighting against us? This is an order of magnitude worse in quality than what came in 2022, said Diky. The expert stressed that the destruction of Russian manpower must continue. Diky also noted that the Russian invaders have a truly catastrophic situation with military-wheeled vehicles. The Russians are running out of iron. They still have meat, although again, with the rate at which they throw this meat into meat assaults and with the rate at which they are now being replenished. Not at all like, for example, 6 months ago. Then problems are already emerging with that. But their problems with iron are simply catastrophic. They did not switch to donkeys because life was good, because wheeled transport in many areas simply dried up, noted Diky.
Ukrainians grappled Tuesday with the ramifications of a U.S. decision to pause military aid that is critical to their fight against Russia's invasion, as a rift between Kiev and Washington deepens. According to Associated Press, Ukrainian lawmaker Oleksiy Goncharenko said the move was a disaster for his country and is now a catastrophic situation. Speaking on UK's Sky News, Goncharenko said, "This means that thousands of people will die." Days after an explosive meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the assistance halted in a bid to pressure Kyiv to engage in peace talks with Russia. Ukraine and its allies are concerned Trump is pushing for a quick ceasefire that will favor Russia, and Kyiv is looking for security guarantees to ward off possible future Russian invasions. A White House official said the U.S. was pausing and reviewing its aid to ensure that it is contributing to a solution. The order will remain in effect until Trump determines that Ukraine has demonstrated a commitment to peace negotiations with Russia, said the official, who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the assistance.
It's a disaster. It was clear from Friday that we are in a very bad situation. Now we are moving to catastrophic situation. And this means, I just want to be absolutely clear with you, this means that thousands of people will die. People who cannot die, but they will die if this decision will be in place, if it will be prolonged. I understand that we have crisis in relationships right now after Friday's meeting in Oval Office, but I just want to ask President Trump just to reconsider, to give some time to Ukraine. President Zelensky should do everything he can in order to get out of this. If it's needed to apologize, he needs to go and to apologize.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer addressed lawmakers from all political parties in the House of Commons on Monday to discuss recent developments regarding Ukraine and the future for Britain's role in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. According to Associated Press, he outlined details of a deal for £1.6 billion for Ukraine to buy 5,000 air defence missiles manufactured in Belfast, which Starmer concluded would provide jobs for people in the UK and benefit UK finance and skills. He continued by discussing meetings he had with US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and confirmed that the UK must strengthen our relationship with America for our security, for our technology, for our trade and investment. He also discussed the outcomes from a summit on Sunday in London with leaders of European countries and Canada, focusing on the creation of a coalition of the willing. Starmer also confirmed that he was willing to provide boots on the ground and planes in the air in Ukraine, but clarified that the decision weighed heavily with him. He ended by stating, "A strong peace, a just peace, a lasting peace, that has now to be our goal." Europe has been anxious since Trump initiated direct peace talks with Putin, who had been isolated by most Western leaders since invading Ukraine 3 years ago. The scramble to remain relevant and protect European interests as their once stalwart ally appeared to be cozying up to Putin was even more troubling when Trump called Zelensky a dictator and falsely said Ukraine started the war. Meetings last week had provided some hope, until Zelensky's trip to the White House on Friday. Visits to the Oval Office by Starmer and Macron, who had declared his visit a turning point, were seen as steps in the right direction. The meetings were cordial and Trump even took a gentler tone toward Ukraine, though he would not commit to providing U.S. security guarantees and maintained that Europe would need to provide peacekeeping troops. Within 12 hours of Starmer's return from Washington, the talk of peace seemed to collapse as Trump and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance berated Zelensky for challenging Trump's assertions that Putin could be trusted.